Our next speaker is Kelsy Saulsbury from Hallmark. Kelsey's talk today is really interesting. I've been enjoying reading and talking with about this. It's looking at the use of self-posted pictures and what they tell us about people, how we understand people, and how we can use that understanding for marketing. So Kelsy Saulsbury.
Good afternoon. So we're going to talk about from selfies to insight and is big data photo ready. So this presentation is really about imagining. So we talk at the conference here about imagining, seeing, and doing. We're a little bit more in the imagination space. There's a little bit of seeing and doing, but we're really at the beginning. So I just want you to kind of dream with me about what the future of this could be. So almost all of us, you probably all have your smartphone on you. If you wanted to take a photo of me right now, you could. And this is happening all around the world. Everyone has their camera on them. We are now all photographers. And we're also communicating visually. A couple weeks ago, I asked a friend of mine, hey, where are you working at today? And this is what I got back. I didn't get a text message. I didn't get a written response. I got this photo. So if you don't know, of course, this is where? See, Sydney, right. So you did kind of have to have some context, but that's what he was kind of telling me. And of course, he just took this with his smartphone to kind of let me know what was going on. And then we can share those photos in so many places in so many ways. So all of this is leading to just billions of photos out there just available. And as a researcher, I want to glean insights from those photos. I can imagine all kinds of things I'd like to learn about my brand, about my products, just about basic human understanding from those photos. But there are some challenges with this today, and I'm calling this kind of the double A challenge of access and analysis. So these are some of the things I'm like, how are we solving these in the industry? In terms of access, I want to talk about three things. So to remember them, it's CPA. I know thinking of accounting may not be the most exciting, but these are challenges for us. I want to talk about the capabilities we might need, permissions and the importance of that, and then accuracy. In terms of capabilities, I think there's a couple different ways this can play. So as I think about my current market research, particularly when I'm doing large quantitative studies, I want to have a better ability to make sure consumers can submit photos as part of their answer response. So getting them to respond in terms of text or kind of filling out radial buttons and all that good stuff, that's easy. But getting photos back from them, we're not kind of there as an industry. We haven't made that as easy to do as I would love for that to be. So we did do recently a very large quant study around our keepsake ornaments. And we did get some photos back with that data, but not even from the entire respondents, but we got back 600 photos. And we can talk more about some of the challenges, but then we have 600 photos. Now what do you do with that? There's still a lot of challenges there. And then when we got to kind of social listening and everything out in social media, there's kind of some additional challenges with getting all of those photos. What I can do today and what we have been able to do is, for instance, pull photos through the social listening tools that are out there today that are very text-based. We can pull, so we did a promotion called kind of #KeepsakeIt, and we can use tools out there to pull all of the photos that a consumer put #KeepsakeIt. I can get those photos. But if there's photos out there of my ornaments and they didn't add the words #KeepsakeIt, I don't have an easy way to get that photo into my set to analyze. So again, also here, so these are one of our products called Itty Bitties. I would love to be able to kind of see all of the consumer photos out there and gather all of that about this product. That's kind of tougher to do today because perhaps just because someone's posting this cute photo of this cute baby, I know it's Hallmark, I have to have photos of cute babies. If you don't go, I'm then totally off brand. So if we've got this photo, but chances are the mom who posted this, she's probably writing something about her cute baby. She's not necessarily writing about my product. So I don't know, it can't guarantee that the text is there for me to pull that. Permissions is another area of big challenge. So a recent Pew study said 93% of people want to be in control of who can get information about them online. So as a brand, I have a relationship with my consumers and with my customers, so it's really important to me that I'm kind of being respectful. So I think that's a challenge. And then we go into permissions, and particularly copyright is a concern for me. So that I kind of got three levels here. But first of all, analyze. Can I analyze kind of any photos out there? So particularly, if it's traditional market research and you gave me the photo, then we can assume that you know I'm probably going to analyze it. But then how do you feel about me analyzing photos you just happen to post and pull all of that? Are you going to be okay with that? Is that legal? How does that work out? Can I use those photos internally? So what if I can analyze all the photos out in the social web, but legally, can I also share the images internally? Because if I can't share the images to kind of illustrate my findings, my business partners are going to be like, so we just have to believe you? That's probably not going to work. So even challenges going externally. So in this presentation today, I really can legally only use photos for which I have full copyright availability. So you should assume for every single slide, someone has said to me, I can get you a better photo to illustrate that point. I'm sure you can. I don't have full copyright for that. So this cute little guy here, if I don't have full copyright for that, I could have a huge problem with someone's mom. I don't know the future. Maybe this little guy, when he grows up, is he going to come back and say, oh, wait, we own that photo, because they do if they haven't given me rights. I think I also have concerns as people maintain social media presence even after they pass away. I think you could get into some very tricky areas, maybe not illegal, but it's a brand, we have relationships. I think there could still be some real challenges. So for those of you that are suppliers, I'm really looking for help in this area. Also, 24% of folks in that same Pew study said that they give inaccurate or misleading information about themselves online. They give inaccurate or misleading information. Well, that's kind of a challenge for the data, particularly when we're kind of pulling all of those things from the social media. I have seen this in my own work, even doing kind of traditional MR. So I've done some work. This is a study where I asked people to submit to me photos of what they give their children for Valentine's Day, because I've really moved towards, instead of asking you to write out what you gave your child for Valentine's Day, I'd rather you just give me a photo. That's more authentic. I know that it's real. I know that's kind of what you really gave. So sometimes I get photos like this. It's chocolate. It has hearts. This is not a professional photo. Someone took this with their cell phone. I feel pretty confident about that, and that is right on, so that feels great. Then I get a lot of photos like this. It's possible that they gave plush, that they gave our itty bitties for Valentine's Day to their kids. It's reasonable. But they obviously took this image from Amazon, from our website, from somewhere online. So now I'm not quite sure. Did they actually give this? Did they give something kind of like this, but this was the quickest photo to grab online? I'm not sure if this is good data or not. And then I actually will get photos like this that are entirely off topic. And I've done this on several different platforms, and I mean, totally off topic. I don't think they gave their 2-year-old a yacht. I mean, maybe, but I think that's unlikely. So then you've kind of got to weed all that out. And so I kind of believe back to that 24% give misleading info. Most of the things that I have done asking for photos, I get as much as 30 to 50% of stuff that I don't really think is accurate, which is pretty scary. And then, yes, I have sat at my desk at work trying to look at photos of what children get for Valentine's Day and instead get photos of naked men. So this is a very bad moment at work where I would like to not get fired. So entirely inappropriate photos, that happens as well. Poor image quality, I think we get some of that with photos. I see this more with video. As the smartphone technology has gotten better, the photos have also gotten better from consumers. So the good news here for all of you that have ever been worried, if you buy a Hallmark card, we do not harm the squirrels in the making of those cards. But the other thing with photos, and if we're gathering photos and consumers are submitting photos, photos can be altered. It may not be exactly what they took. They can alter the photo. So how do we know the accuracy of the photo based on whether or not they've altered it or not? So I think a lot of those things kind of go into how accurate my data is when we're looking at photos as data. Then the challenges of analysis. So if we look at this photo of these 2 little children, historically, if we look at kind of how do we analyze photos, there's kind of a long history of analyzing photos. So we can talk about the who. Who are they? What are they doing? Why are they doing it? When did this happen? Where did this happen? What's the how around it? Who took the photo? What's going on outside the boundaries of the photo? Maybe what happened before, what happened after. And with our human brains, we can talk through all of these things, and we could spend a lot of time analyzing just this one photo. And now I want to take that times billions and billions of photos. So there's some challenges there. Computing power, of course, which my friend earlier kind of talked about. That's one of the issues. In terms of photos, there's kind of some segmentation things, and I think that there's definitely some work happening around here in terms of kind of being able to pull out logos. So even if someone's not talking about your brand, if your brand's in the photo, ability to kind of pull those photos. Facial recognition, I don't know that that's happening as much in market research, but that technology is out there where you could kind of get all the photos that have me in them. We're seeing some work around emotion. Do you know, am I smiling? Am I frowning? Is there positive emotion or negative emotion? Less so, but I think we'll get into kind of just segmenting the photos into the 4 quadrants, since that's kind of a standard way of kind of looking at photo analysis. A lot of work has been happening recently around classification, and this is from Stanford, from Google, from Microsoft, a lot of white papers in the past year. For those of you, if you've just kind of the past couple weeks done Google Photos, they're saying they can do a bunch of this for you. They can classify the babies or you in the photo versus your landscapes versus your pets. But I also want to know cat versus dog, or in the case of Hallmark, I'd like to know all the photos that have Christmas trees, because I'm kind of wanting to get back to my ornaments. And then, of course, it gets complicated really quickly. So this is a person, but she has an image of a cat. Is that going to separate from the real cats when we kind of create our programs to get to that? And then back to where I started, I want to get to the itty bitties. Can I pull all of those? Or what if I wanted to look at all of the images of Captain America? Or Captain Adorable, as his mom calls him. I'd also like the context of those photos. Is it outdoors? Is it winter? Can I separate the photos into groupings that way? Or here, it's kind of back to that context. Is it indoors? But now I pause here because I want to stop and say, what is going on with this photo? What are these 2 little girls up to? So even if I pulled this photo into whatever groupings of indoors or grouping of children, I'm still left going, I don't really know what's going on. What am I going to make up? So ideally, I want to be able to analyze the image plus the text, because what the text tells us here is it says makeovers gone bad. Now this photo is very adorable when I have the text of makeovers gone bad. Before I was a little concerned about what was happening in their home. So that ability to analyze both the text and the photo is also really key, and I think we're a ways away from kind of marrying the two, but that is important as well. Again, here with image plus text, so this is a picture of one of our ornaments, but without the text, this isn't quite as important. So if I kind of read the text, if you can't read in the back, during our first Christmas in 2012, my husband and I excitedly combined our ornaments from our childhoods for the tree. Imagine our surprise when we each pulled out our favorite, these puppy ornaments we received in '93, 14 years before we would meet. Aww, so perfect Hallmark moment. But the power of this is the image plus the text and being able to have both of those and analyze together. Also want to be able to kind of analyze the metadata behind photos, especially if you're pulling them off the kind of social sites, because that can add a lot of context. So if I think about this birthday cake, where it was posted could give me quite a bit of context. So if it's on Pinterest, it may be more aspirational. It may be trying to suggest that you kind of purchase something. There's kind of a certain aesthetic that happens with Pinterest. If this was posted on Facebook, it's more likely that this was about me showing my mom what a great, beautiful cake I made. There's some pretty different motivations that we can glean just from where that's posted. Geolocation, of course, would be some other metadata, and there's obviously lots of kinds of metadata that we'd want to kind of include with those photos. And then ideally including some information about the person submitting, so what would we kind of learn about folks in that way as well. There are some companies playing in this space today. These are not necessarily all of them. In some cases, they're just ones that I've talked to, so in case you ask questions, I would know a tiny bit. Curelate is actually not in the market research space. They're a bit more in kind of monetizing your social engagement, but they're using some of these directions that I'm talking about today. They are developing some of those tools to help in that direction, and Hallmark does work with them. I've also been having conversations with Glimpsit and Ditto, who are both here at the conference, so I know they're available to chat with you more. So Glimpsit is more in terms of getting those photos with some text response and kind of helping answer your questions along with other things. Ditto's playing a bit more in terms of being able to pull images with your brand logo in it, so I think some different things going on there, and I know they're both thinking towards the future in these areas. Again, I referenced Google Photos. Again, not in the market research space, but they are kind of offering that up in their own kind of search and then within your photos. So I think this isn't everything, but I just kind of ask, what are you imagining today? Because this is really about imagining the future of the space and where we could go.
Thank you, Kelsey. Anybody have any questions for Kelsey? Just so happens I do.
I'm sure. We paid him to have questions, so that's why.
They didn't pay me much.
No. Free lunch.
Kelsey, can you tell us a little bit, without revealing too much, about what you're looking for when you're looking at the pictures?
Well, I think at any time it just depends what my research question is. So one of the things, so it might just be kind of, it might be something that I'm kind of pairing with other data that I'm doing, depending if I'm looking at kind of the Valentine's Day. There's kind of the things Mom likes to say about Valentine's Day, and then seeing the photos really kind of brings it to life or brings it home. Sometimes for office you can kind of read that quant data, and certainly my business partners, so there's a little stat about the importance of candy at Valentine's Day. It's different to see photo after photo after photo of that Valentine's Day candy that really kind of brings that to life. So I think that's one thing. And sometimes in terms of moms in particular, she can be very aspirational in what she says she wants to do. But then when it comes to seeing the photo, it's a little more real. Other questions?
Anybody else have any questions? You guys are very quiet today. Go ahead.
Do you see much social media imagery of people's families, or does that tend to be more in? Sorry, I'm curious as to whether you see trends in the kinds of pictures people post in a context that's available for public harvesting.
So far, one of the challenges we've had is in terms of like analyzing in terms of from the social media space, what we've had a little better luck is like our keepsake promotion and pulling all of those photos, because we asked people to do photos of anything that they found keepsakeable. So that got us a lot more into the emotional space that we're interested. It wasn't just the ornaments, it was, so what I can tell you, and this won't be totally shocking, they tended to give photos of their family, probably on vacation or during a party, or because it happened around Christmas time, you saw more photos at Christmas, or pets. Pets are very part of kind of that keepsake emotional space. So that's been a way we've been able to pull that in, but I think it's just when we have more general, I've been more frustrated in the social listening space when I have questions that are more about basic motivations. I think in the social media space, it's been easier to get to brand or specific product. It's kind of been easier to find that information than more of the kind of foundational insights in my experience so far with tools today.
Good. Other questions?
I know just this week there was some Tylenol ads that have are like traditional families versus non-traditional families. Is that showing up a little bit in the work that you're doing, the definition of family and how different, if you know, a gay lesbian family or family with blended family, how those are very different, and do you use that when you're looking at this type of work?
We do have folks that are kind of looking at the definition of family, and we're using social listening tools to do that. Most of the major social listening tools today, though, are very text-based. So the searches that we want to do on topics like that, they're pulling in text around those topics, and it just only pulls photos if the photo mentions that text. So I can't get photos if they're separated from the topic that I want to explore, even though they could be totally related to the topic that I want to explore. So I think that's one of the areas where there's probably a gap in terms of where I would love us to be able to be and where we are today. I know in terms of, it's about an article from about last year from Forrester, and at that time they felt that in terms of big data, in terms of photo, that we were about 10 years behind where we were in terms of big data, in terms of text, in terms of the analysis and ability to do what we want to do. Whether or not we're growing quicker than what they were thinking a year ago, I don't know. So I think there's a lot of space to grow.
Good. Other questions?
In terms of your deliverable post-analysis to the higher-ups, the power that be, what format is that in? I mean, are you putting it in charts and graphs? You're doing a PowerPoint? You're doing a video? How are you presenting your findings?
I think in some cases it's depending on who I'm trying to kind of influence. But one plus, I think, of just in general is I'm doing a lot more of my findings being very succinct in the number of words and very rich in terms of using powerful photos. So even my presentation that you saw today, slight on words, heavy on images and photos, because part of what I'm trying to do with my business partners is to really make things sticky. You know, if we live in a world where I'm serving a consumer who's a mom and she's posting on Facebook, and she's posting a lot more photos now than she is words, or if I'm we're talking more and more about millennial consumers and they're reading BuzzFeed, and that's now their source of news, so it's really more image-based. I'm trying to mirror that in terms of how I present, particularly to folks at kind of the front lines doing product development, and I work with a lot of innovation teams. Hallmark may or may not be different from your industry. We have a large creative community. So I'm not going to get my designers to read a whole bunch of charts and a bunch of the data, and they actually trust that as the researcher, I've got the back end covered. So what I need is to get that into something really kind of sticky and bite-sized for them. But even for those few powerful insights, I think for even senior leaders, that can be a good way to go and add that data in. But happy to chat more later, too, if I didn't quite answer your question. I think one maybe benefit at the moment that I'm seeing is I think there is so much buzz, not just in the MR industry, but just in publications in general about big data, that it's kind of a hot, sexy topic that senior leaders want to hear more about the data from. I'm a little more concerned that, especially when it comes to foundational topics, it's not as rich as it could be, richer on specific brands and products. So I think there's kind of some benefit there that makes the big data space a little easier to play in. As being a company where, if you think about greeting cards, there's a lot of visuals involved in that. I might be a little further ahead than some industries in the importance of being able to kind of use those visuals. But I think at the end of the day, visuals are a really powerful way to kind of tell the story and bring your insights to life. When I kind of show photo after photo of what people are really giving their kids for Valentine's Day, or if I show photo after photo of those Easter baskets, and no matter how much my partner's unfortunately, you'll have to forgive me for saying this, and want a greeting card to be in that Easter basket, how many photos do I have to show you that there is no greeting card in that Easter basket? It's candy, maybe some books, a few other things. So sometimes those photos can be really powerful and hard to deny.
Good. I think that's all the time we have. Thanks, Kelsey.